Hello, fellow gut guardians. This is our weekly gut health coaching, and it's just awesome. We're in the chat, Anna, and then you got Ann P, who's just like a legend in our community. And Ann's all, it's my 1 year anniversary as I've and like, Anna, how cool is that?
That's amazing. Like, where does the time go? I didn't realize it's been a year. That's amazing.
We just did our pilot May 29th. We're not even
Yeah,
officially a year, but
yeah.
I'll tell you, Ann, let me tell you why that matters so much, because I've 7 almost didn't exist.
Mm.
It was I already had 3 products done. Anna knows the story. And man, I just didn't know if I wanted to do another product. And Anna said, Mark, we can make it better. And I knew people needed it. So we said, let's do it. So it's awesome to see like that, Ann, because Ann said it's been the best year of her life. And
Yay.
that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing. So,
Yay.
right, Anna?
That's amazing. I love that.
I love Mary just said, Mark, we needed this shit. So I'm glad you did. And it was not an easy decision, because making products is not easy. And doing
No.
it the right way and the ethical way and the clean way, none of it's easy. But the purpose. And I think that tonight we had our small intestine series last week. We're doing large intestine. But Ann and I were talking before. We just crushed a fun PST3 call. I've got my best. I'm not the best dad, but I got a best dad Disney shirt. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of best dads out there. Steve's the best dad. And like you said, Mr. Incredible's here. And that's what they call your husband, right?
Yes, it is.
So
Yeah.
I want to remind us, and you inspired me for this. This is the picture we took yesterday at the beach. And this is just awesome. And I think like we all know why we are fighting for great gut health. And I think it's sometimes in life, you just need that moment where you say, man, I am fighting for this. So make tonight, what are you fighting for? Why are you showing up every Monday night? Why are you making the choices you're making? Why are you becoming your best version of yourself with great gut greatness? Because getting clear on that matters. Anna, what about you? That's what I fight for every day.
Yes.
My dad died of digestion. Abby suffers daily. She's still working on. You'd be so proud of her. She's going all liquid, pureeing her stuff. She is going. We call it the Lauren plan. Hardcore 6 months. Abby is food journaling, and everyone. If you know my wife, like she's not 99.9% of the population would say, man, she's like does everything right, but her digestive system, she can't get away with anything. So she knows what she's fighting for. Anna, what are you fighting for?
It's definitely all about family. You know what? Can you really, at the end of a long career, and here it is, I've been a surgeon for 22 years and I'm seen tens of thousands of patients, blah, blah, blah. Look, within a month of me being gone, these patients will all have another doctor. The hospital will have another OR filled by someone else. And it doesn't really matter in the same way as your personal commitment to your own family. And that's who's going to be with you when you're old, and that's who's going to be with you at your side. So, I mean, you have got to put that as the priority. And I do love that picture, Mark. That is an amazing picture.
And you know what's so true when you talk about it, and that's why we're doing this. This is why we said yes to make Zive. This is why Dr. Ann and I showed up every Monday night for each and every one of you, because we are a community. When Dr. Anna retires, because she's working on retiring, she's showing up for us. Her knowledge, I remember when she first went on Instagram, and she's like, man, I got a lot to say. And when you're stuck in a hospital setting and you're dealing with patients who only want to use insurance, well, there's a lot of people. The reality, let's just be honest, guys, a lot of people out there don't want to change. And that's okay. We love them and we hold that space for them. But you showing up means you do want that. And that's why, just can't tell you how much each and every one of you mean to us. And more importantly, how this matters for you. Get clear on what you're fighting for. I know what AMP's fighting for. She's like hitting we got to travel with AMP. She's gone everywhere. Disney cruises. She's everywhere. And she could never do that before. That's the power of it. Okay. Now, Ann, are you ready to talk a little colon tonight?
I was definitely born ready on this topic. I'll be honest.
Because you are a colorectal surgeon. So let's dive in.
Yes.
Let's just recap. I'm going to show, last week we did small intestine. And if you're new, because, we opened up this gut health call. We're getting great people showing up every night. Remember, this is every week. It's about optimizing your gut health. We did small intestine last week. Tonight, we're doing large. If you're new to us, we'll show you in the Facebook group where you can see. And remember, we opened up our Facebook group, our Zyva Live group, for invite only, not like if you want a friend to do it, just make sure, because they have to fill out a little questions, make sure they say who referred them. And as long as they came from you, then we're good. So right here, we did the small intestine. Now, tonight, we're doing the large intestine. And the goal here, and because we talk so much about neurotransmitters, serotonins, and dopamine, and like what your microbiome is so crucial here. So Anna, I have to show some stuff before we dive in, but just give us the tidbits, like whet our appetite a little bit about the colon, how important it is for us.
Yeah, the colon's main role is to absorb water and salt. So most of the nutrition is absorbed by your small intestine. And this explains why you can live without a colon, but you can't really live without the small intestine. So its job is to sort of churn things back and forth and absorb as much water as possible and as much of the electrolytes as possible. That is its main function, but it also houses the entirety of the microbiome. So as a secondary function, it helps the microbiome communicate with your brain through the vagus nerve and some sympathetic nerve fibers that feed directly into your brain, the neurotransmitters and that sort of thing.
So that seems kind of important right there.
That's kind of important. Yeah. And, when I went through medical school, there was none of this microbiome talk. There was like, these are the pathogens, these are the things we think are normal. We did know that if you had certain colon infections, you could take the poop from one person, turn it into an enema slurry, and put it into other people. That's what medical students were for. They were healthy. They pooped in a bucket. You made an enema out of it and you gave it to patients. I mean, we did that in the hospital with some routineness. It's not like that anymore, of course. And now we know the microbiome is like uber important. It's not just poo. So it's life has changed a lot in 30 some odd years. So,
and we didn't even know zonulin.
No,
we didn't even know zonulin existed at this time. So that's why these calls matter so much, because what I learned in school, what Anna learned in school, the evolution has been incredible. And that's where we're like, we really, even though people seem less healthy than they've ever been, not our people, but like not all of us, but most people are less healthy. The information at your fingertips is pretty powerful. And that's why when we talk about Zyva Live, this is the Facebook community. This is our guide section right here. And like if you missed it, we did our small intestine right there. We did zonulin the week before. Dangers of seed oils, just really good stuff that for you to plug into each time. And then this, I love this, Anna, because we kind of also lean into what we teach, Coco June. So we understand dairy. So before we dive into the large intestine, dairy is an inflammatory. Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. I remember when I was teaching in the beginning, I'd call that meeting quality. Now, Coco June is the cleanest, organic, pure coconut, the best. And like you put a little bit of great protein powder in that, like Aura makes a great organic plant-based protein powder. So you get none of the inflammatory responses. And then you put in some organic blueberries, raspberries, frozen. You got something, you can even freeze it. So tell me how much you love coconut.
That is, coconut's got that MCT oil. It's awesome. For those of you who don't like coconut, you insist on doing real milk, you have to do the full fat. The only thing that can offset the inflammation of milk proteins is the fat in that milk, because it turns into butyrate, which is an anti-inflammatory. So if you insist, and I have a lot of patients who are like, I have to have cream in my coffee or whatever, it better be the highest of fat. Don't be doing this skim milk is the devil, because you're taking away the anti-inflammatories and you're consuming only the inflammation. So always make sure you get fat in combination with any kind of milk protein.
Yeah, and I already moved away from almond milk, and I only do organic coconut milk now. And then when I travel, I have the coconut milk, organic coconut milk cream packets. So like, just remember, everyone, we live in a world now. In 2000, you can even find a protein bar that was legit. Now, like, you can find anything. Yes. And that's the fun part about this, is that in our Zyva Live community, if there's cool things in that cocoa juice, it's got some probiotics in it as well. And so it's culture. It's really like this is the stuff that we want to share. And I thought it was perfect to show that as we dive into the large
It
intestine.
is. And if the audience thinks you're joking about how you travel, can I just describe Mark McDonald when he travels? Oh my God, he's not joking. He has that with him as he travels. And most of us would try to like wing it. Mark McDonald does not wing it. Okay, like clearly an Eagle Scout, clearly totally prepared, and he's got it locked down. So I fully expect to see this Coco June in your go bag next time we travel together, Mark.
You will. It does need
I'm
to be
sure that I
refrigerated.
will.
So I will bring it on the flight. So
Yes.
don't you worry about that. I will.
I
And I think this is a key. I know what I'm fighting for. So if you walk away with one thing tonight, get clear on why you take care of your gut. How great do you want to feel every day? I can attest that I wake up happy every day. I can attest that I'm waking up energetic every day. Like I feel good every single day. And that's at the end of the day, that's what we want. That's why Ann P said this is her best year because she spent years suffering. She spent years not focusing. And we think about Abby's mom, Andrea, who had her large intestine removed. And what Anna said is, even though your microbiome is made, we talked about this last week, that your small intestine will kind of shift some of the microbiome there. But Andrea suffered with colitis for years to the point where she just didn't have a Dr. Anna, didn't have a solution. So that's why this matters so much. So Anna, let's break this into the large intestine. I'm gonna put that visual back up. I'll bring some of the Zyve stuff into it, like because we talk about, and just really quick for everybody, we talk about the 7 steps of digestion. So part of this, walk me through are these 7 steps because your digestion is the one-way highway. Where is a large intestine in these 7 steps?
The large intestine is going to be, hang on a second. Let me move this out the way so I can see your whole screen. You're going to do several things in the large intestine on this map. One is the build it stronger applies for the entire length of the GI tract. The repel the nasties applies mostly to small bowel in the early part of the large intestines. The gently expel. That's our one-way poo highway. Okay, just so you know. And the rise and excel part is really someone who is doing what they can to control inflammation over the course of anywhere between 2 weeks and 6 months will gradually balance their microbiome and improve things. So that last step is definitely a microbiome thing, and that is in the colon. The churn and the burn, and breaking things down, that's all upper GI. The rest of those steps are going to be mid-gut and below.
Got it. Okay. And that's just like we talk about how your gut health needs to be a one-way highway. If you're having acid reflux, this is a problem. If you're having these things, it's an issue. And if you feel like, because we're not going to dive into all of Zyve tonight, but if you say like, I really want to know how it works, go to our homepage and watch this video, Science of Zyve 7. And then also on the Learn page, look who's on the Learn page right there. Is that Dr. Anna Toker?
That's a younger, thinner me, but yes, that is me. Believe it or not.
Dr. Anna right there. So these are just good ways to consistently learn. Now, as we dive into large intestine, we're going to focus on 3 things today. We're going to, number one, focus on really each part of the large intestine and kind of what each part does. And then the microbiome. And then we're each going to share 3 things that are going to help you immediately improve the quality of your large intestine. And then we'll talk about some of the stuff that we have in Zyve that helps it as well. Okay, number one, Anna, talk us about each part of the large intestine and kind of give us a visual of what it does.
Okay. It's a continual tube, so sometimes it can be kind of hard for people to understand how different each of these areas are, but the ascending, so you have them labeled. So the ascending colon is actually where the majority of water and salt is going to be absorbed. And if you do not have an ascending colon, then you may wind up having more loose stool than the average bear because you're not absorbing the water and the salt, you're also more prone to getting kidney stones. So anybody who's had a right colon resection, you have to be aware that they may get a kidney stone. The transverse colon really is just kind of a conduit. What's interesting about the transverse colon is about halfway through there is where the actual vagus nerve stops and then transitions to what's called the myenteric plexus. So the distal part of your colon is not directly connected to the vagus nerve. It's got this myenteric plexus, and that happens at the transverse colon. The descending colon and the sigmoid colon get real thin. They're basically just a conduit straight down. And the rectum itself is basically a very unique organ. When you operate on that, you can definitely kind of adjust someone's world of the colon. That rectum has extraordinary value because it's got some distensibility to it. It's what allows you to kind of hold off until you get home to use the restroom if you're lucky enough. And if that rectum doesn't distend properly or you don't have sensation proper, then you can really struggle. So when you operate on the rectum, those patients definitely struggle a lot with bowel function, even if everything else is present. You remove that much of rectum, and it really can cause consternation for the
And,
patient.
and and you've done, I think, about 20,000 plus colonoscopies. You're going to be doing mine. So
Yes.
we're going to
Oh,
get very intimate. So,
sweet.
like, as you go through this, sometimes you can see inside the small intestine, sometimes you
Yeah.
can't.
Yes,
And
so
then,
we try to get into the small intestine if we can. The only thing that limits that exam is the angulation. So this picture is a little wonky because that appendix is not typically going that direction. It's
yeah.
usually a little bit more lateral and can flip backwards a little bit. But anyway, the small intestine on this picture would pick up right above where that appendix was. And if that angle is kind of crazy, it could be hard to get in there and see what it is that you want to see. But we do try to get in there if we can.
Now, and when you do this, and I can't wait, we're going to live stream this. And does everyone love learning how this? I have a couple questions and then we're going to dive into it. Low one way poo highway. Who loves learning about like each part of your body? I want everyone to think about like when you poop today, like all these things, like you're
All
learning each
working.
thing on everyone else's. It doesn't get better than this. Like this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Sandy, we'll talk about almond milk. I'll bring that back around. Stay with me. We'll do that in. And we'll talk about the gallbladder as well.
Yep.
So let's talk about this microbiome.
Yes.
For everyone new, let's just talk about what is microbiome now,
Mhm.
and in what part in the you said it, but let's repeat it in the large intestine, and then what are the main factors of it?
Okay. So the microbiome is a term we give any population of bacteria. So, and everything has a microbiome on this planet. It does not really matter where you are. Even in the most harsh aspect of the world, in the most harsh aspect of your GI tract, there are bacteria that have learned to live there. So your skin has a microbiome, your mouth has a microbiome. As a general rule, when we talk about your microbiome of the gut, the majority of that diversity is going to be in your colon, although there's a little bit in your stomach and there's a little bit in the small intestine. Most of it is living in the colon. This group of bacteria is responsible for things like anti-inflammatories and vitamins and
Anna, let
um,
me interrupt 1 second. I think you made a great point last week. People will tell you microbiomes in different places. Anna's point, and correct me, I'm just rephrasing what you said, that you don't want a lot of microbiome in your stomach, in your small intestine, because your whole point with your stomach is to break your food down.
yes,
And then your small intestine is to absorb that. So if you
correct.
have a lot of bacteria, then that's what causes stuff like SIBO and things like that.
Correct. Like
Bacteria overgrowth.
yeah, you're competing like the food is going to see the bacteria before it sees you. So if you've got a bunch of bacteria in the upper part of the GI tract, they're going to town and they will munch through all of that food before you do and all of a sudden produce bad things like methane and sulfur gas and all that kind of stuff, which causes belly upset. Meanwhile, you'll wind up not absorbing those particular nutrients that the bacteria are breaking down. So you don't want a lot of bacteria in the upper GI tract. This is why pancreatic enzymes are important. It's why stomach acid is important. Okay, so as the other issue is that some of the most important bacteria, and some of the audience may have heard of the word Akkermansia. I find it fascinating that non-microbiologists would know that word, but I've had a lot of people ask me about it because there's a commercial about it. There's a probiotic for Akkermansia, and it's associated with people who have normal guts and normal weight. So everybody want, well, I'll just take Akkermansia and I will be healthy, right? So Akkermansia, like many of the really, really good bacteria for you, are supposed to live in the colon. They feed on the mucus that your colon lining makes, and they live in a world with zero oxygen, zero oxygen. So if you have a really sick GI tract, then it won't be zero oxygen in your colon. It won't be the right pH. You won't have the mucus on the lining because of inflammation. So then you don't have the Akkermansia. So taking Akkermansia is not what makes you healthy. It is the sign that you are healthy when you have a lot of it. So, and that probiotic can cost $150 a month, $120 a month. And it makes zero sense to take that because number one, the second it opens in your GI tract where there's any oxygen, it all dies. And you're not changing your life to make sure you got a one-way highway. And if you're not
Mm,
doing that, then the pH gradient is not proper, and it's going to wind up opening in your GI tract where there's oxygen, it's going to die, or there's too low of a pH and it's going to die, or there's not enough mucus for it to live on. That's what it feeds on, is the mucus lining of the intestines. So it is important to understand you cannot fix the microbiome by buying a pill.
got
So
it.
you can't do that. Now I love taking probiotics. Obviously, Zyme 7 has probiotics. The probiotics in Zyme 7 support mucus production in the lining of the intestines. And what does that do? That feeds your Akkermansia, right? It also helps control the pH gradient. It also helps remove oxygen out of the system. That's all important so that when it gets to the colon, you've got an uninflamed, healthy lining of the colon making mucus that has no oxygen present. And now that healthy bacteria, Akkermansia, that's responsible for health, normal weight, and that sort of thing, starts to grow in a normal colony. Does that kind of make sense from a
Yeah,
microbiologist?
it's great. And when we think about this, this is exactly what Dr. Anna was saying, what the Biotep 7 blend is. When you think about the combination, and let me talk, Anna, let me ask on that. Make sure if
Mhm.
there's questions, everyone ask that in the chat. I just want to go back to here because there's two things I think are crucial that we talk about. Constipation. So we're starting to understand it. So constipation, like I want a two-part question. We have a whole, someone misses this. We have 5 steps to improve bowel regularity. So if you missed it, go to the guide, download this document.
Yeah.
But Anna, let's talk about constipation. And then let's also talk about what your poop should look like and how regular someone should be.
Yes. So you know what? I'll be
You are the
honest.
poop expert.
Dude, people try to show me pictures of their poop, and I'm like, I am not that interested. Not that interested. Okay. Because what your poop looks like has a lot to do with what you eat, to be honest with you. I don't need to see pictures of that.
Okay.
Um, it's not like reading tea leaves. You don't need to have different shapes in your poop and all that kind of stuff. You're being too obsessive at that moment. What I would say is this. Constipation has multiple definitions. It is either one, you have infrequent bowel movements. Number
Mm-hmm.
two, the stool is super duper hard, like little pellets. Or number three, you strain hard to use the restroom. So I've got people who say they're not constipated, but they're pooping pellets and straining every single day. Yes, you are constipated. And I've got people with the perfect C loops or whatever you're talking about poops, but it only happens once a week. So yeah, you're
Got it.
still constipated. So there's three different definitions, and each of them have a different meaning, and some of them can mean, I don't know if this person has a surgical problem. Most of it is dietary in its nature. So I wouldn't get too obsessed about reading the tea leaves in your poop, but I would say if you're uncomfortable, if you're straining, if there's little pebbles in there, that's the definition of constipation.
Okay. And then when we think about that, what do you think is happening? What's happening in that large intestine? Is that just a bacteria problem? Is it a water problem?
It can be all of the above. So some
Okay.
people, the second they drink water, your body's going to absorb it. So like if you're on a lot of caffeine, for example, caffeine is a natural diuretic. You drink some iced tea. You're in Texas, right? So everyone's drinking iced tea. You're peeing all day long. So you think you're totally hydrated because you're drinking and you're peeing. The problem is there's no liquid in the stool by the time it makes it to the colon.
Got
So the
it. Okay.
colon's trying to absorb every little ounce of water out of that and dries everything out a little bit too much. If you don't, that's the purpose of fiber. Fiber binds water and won't let it go. So some people with constipation have a tendency to not get either water or fiber, or they get them in the wrong proportions or at the wrong time. Fiber and water need to be consumed together, which is why juicy fruit has it like kiwi fruit has a tendency to work better on constipation than, let's say, a bran muffin, which has no water in it whatsoever.
So
If
in
that makes
essence, the goal with the large intestine, we talk about a healthy microbiome, making your body's ability from a probiotic aspect, have proper prebiotics, so everything, the bacteria is being fed properly, you're drinking water, so everything is flowing.
Yeah.
So from that perspective,
Mhm.
what like I want to share three things that because this is what we did last week and I loved it. Myself as a nutritionist coaching someone who's not a colorectal surgeon, who doesn't have the understanding that I'm not doing colonoscopies. What I would say when a client would come to constipation with me, and so Anna, I'm always going to throw you. You're going to have to give us the three things that people don't know what to do. I'm going to give us the five things I think everyone should do because
Yes.
from a large intestine perspective, obviously Zyve is going to help, as Anna already talked about. So step one is you're going to take your Zyve. Step two, you're going to drink water.
No.
Anna just referenced that from a water perspective, why it matters consistently throughout the day. And like just think to yourself, like when life is busy, are you hydrated or you're not hydrated? Are you drinking? Do you have a water bottle available? Start thinking about what can you do tonight to get in more water. We then move into your morning time. And Anna, like I want to just address about stress and regularity and how it matters. And
Yep.
then what I would say is you move your body because movement matters. And then fiber. Anna talked about this. Kiwi. I wake up with psyllium husk every day with water. So
Mhm.
when we think about these things, like these are the five things you can really do. If you're doing these things, you're improving the way your small intestine and large intestine in particular is working. But Anna,
Mhm.
let's just talk about from that side, why stress? Like what are your three things and talk about why stress can lead to more challenges in the microbiome and constipation.
Yeah, so and you've mentioned sort of the five big ones, and I do believe I helped you write that document. So
Yes, but you need to find more stuff.
all right. So, well, I will tell you, look, in the modern era, one of the big things that gets overlooked is because glyphosate, which is sprayed onto almost every plant matter known to man, it's in the air, it's in the water, that binds magnesium, and therefore most people are magnesium deficient, and magnesium deficiency leads to constipation.
Got it.
Too much, too much calcium and an imbalance of vitamin D and calcium, so too much of that can lead to constipation as well. And so, the GI tract is a giant circular muscle. You need both calcium and magnesium for all of your muscles. And so you need to beware of the magnesium. So that would be number one that I would stress people do. This the
Which is
second
why magnesium's in Zyve as well.
Correct. Yeah. So you want to have that magnesium. The second thing that you want, and again, this what's enzyme 7. You want a nice probiotic. Why is that? You are trying to give the support scaffolding and the support crew that can survive in any environment. So one of the reasons lactobacillus and those species and bacillus are such good probiotics is because they can live with oxygen, without oxygen, in the acid, without the acid. They support the intestinal lining to do all of the things that attract the bacteria that are good for you. So one of the ways that you can balance the microbiome is by consuming a variety of different lactobacillus and bacillus species, because they are kind of like the community leaders that get together a healthy microbiome. They're easy to take, they're inexpensive, they're present sort of in your environment. You can leave a cup of milk out and get those bacteria if you really wanted to. So a good probiotic that has multiple species, I don't know, sort of like Zyme 7 is another good approach. Um, to speak in terms of stress, and that's probably another problem with the world. Some people will have diarrhea as a result of stress, and some people will have gas, bloat, constipation because of stress. It really just kind of depends on the person, because cortisol has a sort of like a slowing down of the midgut, and a speeding up of the hindgut, and then vagal nerve stimulation will cause a speeding up of one part of the gut, and a slowing down of the other part of the gut. So it can cause this push me, pull you situation of discomfort when you're under stress. And so that's not just constipation specific, that's diarrhea specific as well.
Yeah, and that's why we talk about morning time and movement. Two quick. So I got three quick things for you. Give me the definition again of why when we wake up and we have more, and this is one takeaway for everybody when we think about now the large intestine and being regular, because so much of that combination comes together. A regular body a lot of times is good. And if someone asked about hemorrhoids, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Anna, talk to me about, you said that what is that trigger when we wake up and we want to like go to the bathroom in those first 20 minutes? That's why we talk about movement,
Yeah.
water, and focusing on morning time.
Yeah, so that's called a gastrocolic reflex. Stomach to
Okay, one
colon.
more time. Gastrocolic reflex.
Gastro,
Everyone
stomach,
write it down. Okay.
colic, yes. Gastro is stomach, colic is colon. So there's a reflex that when you eat something, a stimulation is sent down the length of the GI tract all the way down to the colon and rectum that says make room for the food that you've just eaten. Now, that reflex is the strongest in the morning. If you can recall changing diapers, babies seem to have that reflex with every meal. And there are some adults that will have that reflex with every meal, and that's almost normal. Like two bowel movements a day is still within normalcy, although that seems kind of frequent to some of us. But two times a day, 2 times a week, it is normal interval. But you eat 5, 10 minutes later, that reflex is strong in most people in the morning. I do have some patients where it's stronger in the afternoon. So you just have to be aware of in you when is it the strongest and take advantage of that. So if you struggle with constipation, you want to harness that power, which means wake up a little earlier. Give yourself a little coffee, which is kind of a normal colonic stimulant. Walk around a little bit, spend some time in the bathroom. The first 2 weeks, you may want to do a suppository or enema if you really struggle, because that will force the rectum to empty. You can train the rectum even if you're paralyzed and nothing is connected to your spinal cord. It's a reflex action. It's why babies are allowed to poop.
This is amazing. This is what Ann did. Ann said I went from 8 to 10 times a day to one time in
Yeah.
the AM since I've all of
Yeah.
the stuff. And this is why we do these calls, because
Yeah.
your whole digestive system is one system.
It's
It's
one
a
system.
system that builds off one another. So you want to start understanding if something's working or not working. It all flows. Talk to me about hemorrhoids. I know we're 9:36, so we're going like 5 more minutes because there are a couple of questions that we want to answer.
Yes.
Talk to us about hemorrhoids. So someone asked about really bad hemorrhoids. First off,
Okay.
what's triggering the hemorrhoid? Are there solutions for it besides
So
surgery?
right. So, first of all, you're born with hemorrhoids are just blood vessels that live under the skin. And the human body has 6 hemorrhoidal blood vessels that feed into that area. It's a very vascular area. That area has to have a little bit of a cushion to it. So those are considered rectoanal cushions that keep the skin from ripping, basically. So you need that protective mechanism. But like veins elsewhere in your body, they can get larger, they can get engorged. You know, if you see weightlifters, they got the veins all over their bodies and stuff because they're lifting weights and they're straining. So if your butt is working, those veins are swelling, you know.
So
Um,
hemorrhoids are like butt bodybuilders.
but you know, that's the wrong place to put a bodybuilder. Because what that means is you're dangling your hiney where you shouldn't be dangling your hiney. You know what I'm saying? Like so, and I do have, if anyone is interested on my website from my office, which is drtoker.com, drtoker.com. If you click on the hemorrhoid page, there is a video, how to avoid hemorrhoid surgery. And it's a 15-minute lecture with kind of advice on what to do to avoid a problem. But real quick,
We should all be watching that video.
yes, and then to follow,
Even
watch
if you don't have hemorrhoids, because I don't have hemorrhoids, should I still watch that? Does it help me?
still
Because I don't want to get hemorrhoids. So
you don't. And I would, for anyone who's like, oh, to hell with it, I'll just have surgery, right? Because some people come to me with that. I will insist that you watch the following video right under it, which says how to survive hemorrhoid surgery, because it is the worst surgery that I do. I hate doing hemorrhoid surgery. It is painful. It is very hard to heal from. People are shocked at how bad it hurts. I'm like, how can you be shocked? It's your butthole. Yeah, I am cutting on your butthole up to 6 times in a little circle. It's a tiny space. Have you ever seen cut a hiney hole? It's tiny. How can you put that many incisions so close to each other? Of course it hurts. You can't blink your eyeballs without your butthole hurting. So it's a tough surgery. You don't want it. I don't suggest it unless you really need to have it. Now, if your life is revolving around your hemorrhoids, yes, you would be well served to have surgery.
got it.
But if you on occasion have a hemorrhoidal problem, oh no, put that surgery situation aside unless you're an absolute, you know, masochist. I mean, so it just like there's
But there's
there's
always a Dr. Anna moment on every call. Ann P knows it. Okay,
yes,
another question. Someone
yes,
asked about probiotics. Dr. Anna said Zymes it's great by itself
yeah, by itself.
from that side. Let me see if there's anything else. Jennifer, so for Zyve, like we don't do tests with kids. So we always say talk to your doctor. Overall the ingredients in it and everything is all natural anyways, but it's NSF sport certified. But obviously have your doctor look at that like your pediatrician.
Yes,
MP said that is a Dr. Anna nugget. Okay. DrAnnaToker.com. We all need to watch that video.
yes.
So
100%.
just take away like, and there's one more question on seed oils. What I'm going to recommend, hold on, let me go to the website actually. I'm going to recommend go to our, whoever asked that, because I lost that. Make sure you go to our Zyva Live group and just go to the guides right here. All you have to do is go up to guides and watch the seed oil one, because whatever we say, nothing's going to be like this live we did on May 12th. Like you'll learn everything you want from seed oils, why it is, why it's challenging from that. So Anna, the last question I have just on the large intestine, because we're going to come back and hit the stomach next week, and it's a piece of each one. Just what's your fine? Obviously, people can live without their large intestine. We prefer not to, from the point of the microbiome, the regularity.
Yep.
But from this side, what's your wrap tonight about just people? Why, like what we talked about what they can do. What's your final thoughts on the large intestine?
Okay, my number one final thought is if you are struggling with any kind of digestive issue, don't assume that your naturopath has the answer. You do need to rule out colon cancer. We see this in younger and younger people. So even if you're 32 and think no big deal, I have buried a number of 30-year-olds. Okay, so it's just it can happen. So if there's something wrong with your GI tract, the first thing on the list is kind of like colonoscopy. Let's make sure everything's okay. Once someone has proven that everything is okay, everyone needs to kind of figure out it's what you're eating. Like it's 9 times out of 10 for every person that comes into my office with a GI complaint, 95% of those people do not have a surgical issue. This is not like you can go down to Pep Boys and just get a new colon. So you do have to do your own homework. And it can be frustrating for some people. I'm doing everything right. And then they don't realize there's one thing in your life that you're doing wrong and you need to go find it. And it could be in your vitamin, it could be in your toothpaste, it could be in your Listerine mouthwash, destroying your entire microbiome, your Trident. dumb, Mark McDonald's, right? All these things. It could be something small. It could be in the medicine your doctor prescribed for you. It can be you don't think the little splash of creamer in your coffee in the morning is destroying you. And I have multiple patients, it's the creamer in their coffee. It's the little artificial sweetener. They only do it once a day. It's enough to screw them up. The Listerine, that's enough to screw you up. So you just have to know it can be something very, very small. No, you don't have parasites. I
Yeah.
freaking don't have parasites. Y'all stop it. So, but you might have parasites. I shouldn't say that. If you camp, if you're around animals, if you outdoorsy a lot, if you've got kids, you might have parasites, but most of us do not. Okay, just so you know. But if you think you got a parasite, you can do a test for that. We do a test.
I think the best thing you did was structurally. We always say that rule out the structural issues.
Yes.
It kind of like as a biomechanic, from you talk about knee or arm injury, rule out the structural. And if it's not structural, it's some type of soft tissue that you got to work on and you can improve in it. Same thing with your stomach. We always go to the worst thing. The best thing we ever did when Abby was having all those flare-ups is she booked a flight to Dallas. She was picked up by Dr. Anna. I don't know why you gave her beef. I don't know why you gave her beef the night before. We laugh at that.
Because we're in Texas. And if you don't go to Carrie Black's barbecue when you are in Texas, you've just missed out on an opportunity.
Well, I'm coming and I'm doing it. And then she had the colonoscopy. And I'll tell you, even though she has all these issues going on with her gut health right now, she knows her colon's clean. And like, that's it. So like that stress. So I love that aspect. It's the little things. It's why you should do a food journal. If you're really suffering from gut health, if there's something not working, you're doing something most likely. So you got to find the point. Dr. Anna, as always, you're amazing. We can't go to Pep Boys, everybody. You can't go get a new colon. So do the work. We'll see you next week. We're talking stomach. This is a really heartfelt one. This is an important one. We're really going to dive into what your stomach does. And every week, a new topic based on what you're asking. Please post in our Zyva Live group any questions that you have so that you don't feel like you can only talk to us every week. We are with you every single day. Dr. Anna, as always, you're the best. Hugs, everybody. DrAnnaToker.com. Let's all make sure we watch the hemorrhoid one so that we do what we need to do to not have hemorrhoids and to avoid the hemorrhoid surgery.
There's going to be a quiz next week.
Yes. And I love, just a big shout out. I love Jennifer came on and she said, love this. Thank you so much. Great job, Jennifer. Okay. Bye, everyone. Massive hugs. Bye.
You guys.